Imagine you win the lottery. Not a small amount, millions, hundreds of millions. You quit your job. You buy the house, the car, the yacht. You stop making things. You stop building things. Why would you? You are rich. Studies show that lottery winners, on average, are broke within 5 years. Not because they are foolish, but because money, sudden unearned money, does something to a person. It severs the connection between effort and reward. It acts like a sedative on every instinct that built you. The hunger, the drive, the need to create and produce. All of it quietly goes numb. Kindly subscribe to the channel. Let's go. Easy money is not a blessing, it is a substance. And like any substance, it feels incredible at first. In the 16th century, the most powerful nation on earth discovered this lesson. Not in a therapist's office, not in a book. In the ruins of an empire. The year is 1545. The place is modern-day Bolivia. A man named Diego Gualpa is climbing a steep mountain in the Andes. He slips, he grabs a shrub to stop his fall. The shrub tears from the hillside. And there, exposed in the raw earth beneath his hands, silver. Everywhere. Gualpa had not found a silver mine. He had found something the world had never seen. A mountain made almost entirely of silver ore. Cerro Rico, the rich hill of Potosi. By the time Spain was done with it, Potosi would produce more than 40,000 tons of pure silver. More than half of all the silver mined in the entire world during that era. The Spanish called it their gift from God. A sign that they were chosen, destined to rule the world. The people who worked the mines had a different name for it. The mountain that eats men, thousands of forced laborers worked in airless tunnels, breathing toxic fumes used to process the ore. Many did not come out, but the silver kept coming, ton after ton, ship after ship. And Spain, drunk on its own fortune, never asked the one question that mattered. What does all this money actually do to us? The Spanish silver dollar? The piece of 8. 8 reals stamped with the Spanish crown. By the mid-1500s, this coin was everywhere. In Chinese markets, in Ottoman bazaars, in English ports, in the pockets of merchants from Lisbon to Manila. It was the world's first truly global currency. And Spain controlled the supply. Think about what that meant. Spain was not just wealthy. Spain was the infrastructure of global commerce. They had the galleons, the ports, the soldiers, the colonies. They had a navy that ruled the Atlantic and the Pacific simultaneously. The Spanish king sat on the throne of the most powerful empire since Rome. His court was a cathedral of gold-plated ceilings and silk-draped advisors. His armies were the finest in Europe, and he believed it would last forever. But beneath the shining exterior, the foundation was already crumbling. Because money is not wealth, it never was. Wealth is the ability to make things, to grow food, to weave cloth, to forge iron, to build ships, to train doctors, to educate engineers. Money is just the scorecard, and Spain was about to learn that you can win every quarter of the game, while losing your ability to play. Act 1, the price revolution. Here is a simple economic truth. If you double the amount of money in circulation, but you do not double the amount of goods, prices rise? That is not a theory. That is arithmetic. Between 1500 and 1650, Spain flooded Europe with silver. More money than the continent had ever seen. But the farms, the workshops, the forges, they were producing the same amount they always had. The result was the price revolution. The first documented case of large-scale inflation in European history. Prices in Spain tripled, then quadrupled. A loaf of bread, a pair of boots, a simple wooden chair, all of it becoming steadily, relentlessly more expensive. Prices in Spain rose over 400% between 1500 and 1650, and here's where it gets devastating. Spanish goods became the most expensive in Europe. So when Spanish merchants went to sell their products abroad, nobody bought them. Why pay double for a Spanish tool when you could buy the same thing from England for half the price? Spain's silver had priced itself out of the world economy. Act 2, the rotting interior. Think of a nation like a human body. The farmers are the digestive system, turning raw earth into food. The blacksmiths are the muscles, building and repairing everything. The merchants are the circulatory system, moving value from place to place. These are the vital organs of an economy, the parts that actually produce wealth. And in 16th century Spain, those organs were slowly shutting down. Why would a Spanish farmer work hard in a field when the silver ships brought enough money to simply buy food from abroad? Why would a craftsman spend years learning a trade when imported goods from England or France were cheaper anyway? The silver had removed the incentive to produce. And without incentive, production died food, chewing it for the rest of Europe. The nourishment flowed straight through and out. They mined it, they shipped it. Then they handed it to their rivals to buy dinner. The richest country in the world could not feed itself without imports. In Spain, there was a class of lesser nobility. The hidalgo, a man of good blood, of honor, of pride. And there was one thing a hidalgo absolutely could not do. Work with his hands. Manual labor was for the lowborn. A man of standing farm nothing, built nothing, made nothing. He collected rents, he attended church, he maintained his dignity. As the silver flowed in, this attitude spread. It seeped down from the nobility into the middle class, into the merchant's son, into the craftsman's apprentice. Why learn a trade when silver could buy what trade produced? Why work when status demanded clean hands? An entire culture began to associate productivity with poverty. While Dutch merchants were building trading companies and financing expeditions, while English inventors were tinkering with new machines and techniques, Spain was producing one thing in extraordinary quantities: people who refused to work. The silver had not just inflated prices, it had infected the culture. It had replaced the drive to create with the desire to consume. The narcotic had reached the brain, and the vital organs were failing one by one. Here's where the story takes its darkest turn. The Spanish king had an empire. He had silver mines. He had fleets. He also had a problem. He needed more money than he had. The empire was expensive. Wars in the Netherlands. Wars against the Ottomans. Wars in the Americas. A professional army does not fight for free. A war fleet does not sail on prayers. So Spain turned to the bankers. The Fuggers of Augsburg, the merchants of Genoa, men who would lend enormous sums, at enormous interest. At first it seemed manageable. The silver ships would arrive. Spain would repay the loans. Spain would borrow again. But the interest kept compounding, and the wars kept costing. And the silver, though vast, was finite. By the mid-1500s, Spain was not running an empire. It was running a scheme. New silver arrived from Potosi. It went straight to the bankers as interest payments. Then Spain borrowed more to cover the gap. Then more silver arrived and went straight to the bankers again. Spain had become a shipping company for its creditors. All the labor, none of the reward. In 1557, King Philip II defaulted on Spain's debts. The world's first major sovereign default. Spain defaulted on its national debt 4 times before 1600, 1557, 1565, 1596, the most powerful empire in history. Repeatedly, technically, broke. The interest payments alone exceeded the entire tax revenue of the kingdom. More money was leaving Spain than the mines could possibly replace. The treadmill had become a trap, and the trap had become a coffin. Here's the cruelest irony of the entire story. All that silver that poured into Spain, most of it did not stay in Spain. It flowed outward to pay for imported goods, to service debt, to fund wars across a continent. Spain did the hard work. Spain built the ships. Spain funded the expeditions. Spain managed the colonies. Spain paid the human cost. And then Spain handed the money to its rivals. The English and Dutch merchants who received that silver did not waste it. They invested it. They built workshops. They financed scientific research. They created trading companies, the VOC, the East India Company, institutional engines of modern commerce. While Spain was perfecting the art of spending, England and the Netherlands were perfecting the art of producing. The silver that should have been Spain's foundation became England's building material. By the time Spain understood what had happened, the gap was irreversible. The rivals had not just caught up. They had used Spain's own silver to leave Spain behind. Economists have a name for what happened to Spain: the resource curse. The documented tendency for nations rich in natural resources to grow poorer, less innovative, and more unstable than nations with nothing. It has happened in modern times, too. Nations rich in oil that import their food. Nations rich in diamonds that cannot build a functioning hospital. The pattern is always the same. Easy money removes the pressure to produce. Without that pressure, the muscles of the economy weaken. The farmers, the engineers, the craftsmen, they disappear. Not overnight, slowly, quietly, comfortably. And by the time the easy money runs out, the ability to survive without it is already gone. Spain did not fall in a single dramatic moment. It faded. The galleons sailed less. The colonies grew restless. The silver mountain of Potosi slowly gave less and less. The debts were never truly repaid. And the rivals that Spain had funded, through its own purchases, its own debts, its own imports, those rivals built the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution, the modern world. Spain peaked in 1580. By 1650, it was a secondary power, all that silver, all those ships, all that power. And what did Spain have to show for it? Empty workshops, abandoned farms, a culture that had forgotten how to make things, and a debt that took generations to repay. The final warning: the silver of Potosi was real. The power it bought was real. The armies it funded were real. But it was all built on an illusion. The illusion that money is the same thing as strength. That possession is the same thing as production. That what you have today determines what you will have tomorrow. It does not. Only what you build determines what survives. This is not a story about Spain. This is a story about every nation, every business, every person, whoever mistook the scorecard for the game. Easy money breaks the link between work and reward. And once that link breaks, everything built on it starts to crack. The mountain did not only consume the workers in its tunnels. In the end, it consumed the empire too. If this changed how you think about wealth and power, hit the subscribe button for more.